I'm 5'3", 115 pounds, so I guess I'm pretty small. That's my reasoning for being very submissive over all of this. This is a lengthy story, so I'm just going to skim, and I'm not the best at telling the story, so prepare yourself. When I started working at this fast food chain, I was 16. It was my first job, and I was excited to finally take my first steps into adulthood. This coworker of mine was training me. For privacy purposes, I'll call him Frank. Frank at first glance looks young, 19, 21 at the most. We got along and nothing was too bad nor alarming, like conversations about anime and such. I remember things started to change slightly when he was talking about a video game character, and none of our coworkers knew who it was. When I saw the green hat character, I said, "Oh, that's Link. How cute. I used to watch my brother play Legend of Zelda 4 Swords." He looked at me and said, "Marry me." I laughed it off and continued on with my day. For the rest of my shift, he would hover over me asking me personal questions like my age, my favorite things, and etc. Being the open, friendly person I was, I answered happily. I told him how I loved butterflies and that I was 16. I'm 17 now and have had several jobs since then. When an older man asks you for your age as a minor, it's never a nice sign. Moving on to December, I've been at this chain for a month now. My manager asked me if I wanted to come to their company Secret Santa party, and I agreed. When the day came, I arrived with my now ex-best friend. Frank arrives on the phone, acting busy and such, but I thought nothing of it. During the whole party, he was on the phone. I was getting food when he tapped my shoulder, still on the phone, and handed me a beautifully butterfly necklace. I didn't know what to say, besides thanking him, thinking he was my Secret Santa. And then later, my other coworker comes up to me, handing me a gift card to Starbucks and a plush. I asked why, and she said that she was my Secret Santa. I thought that it must have been a mistake and went on with my night listening to my old best friend tell me how I should date Frank, which in my mind was never on the table. January rolls around and it was Frank's birthday. We were just working until I heard one of my girl coworkers, who was into him at the time, wish him a happy birthday. Being that person, I wish him happy birthday while my other coworker asks how old he's turning. He said 27. Might I add that every shift I worked with him, he would take several photos of me before and after my shift, commenting about my hair, my skin, and my eyes. He often said how cute my nose was. Again, not wanting to cause a scene, I just laugh everything off. And that's always the case, isn't it? We don't want to cause a scene. I did start telling him to please stop, but of course, he wouldn't, no matter how many times I asked him to. Now, I'm going to skip to May, my birthday month, and of course, I was working on my birthday. I went to the back door as usual. Due to everything going on, I had to ring a doorbell and wait for someone to open the door. Out of nowhere, Frank pops out of the bushes handing me all kinds of gifts. Today was his day off too, so I was confused. I remember thinking, how the hell did he know my birthday? I never talked to him about it since I don't like celebrating it. He followed me around for a few minutes before awkwardly leaving when I apologized that I wanted to get to work and not get yelled at. In July was when I finally found a new job. I quit due to sexual harassment that I had to endure for the 9 months I worked there from my shift lead. That's a whole other story, but when a man starts getting handsy, don't laugh it off and shut that down. It got really bad when that ex-best friend that I had mentioned earlier started showing all my coworkers, including Frank, and that shift lead, explicit photos of me that she stole off my phone without me knowing. I was very insecure at the time and was in an abusive relationship, so I would give anything this boy had asked of me. Anyways, at that point, I had about had it. After being interrogated about that shift lead, I put in my 2 weeks. On my last week, everyone was talking about how that shift lead got laid off for sexual harassment. Frank and I were doing dishes and the topic came up. I awkwardly told him about it, now knowing how everyone knew my story. The shift lead would often grab my butt, rub my thigh, talk about my boobs about, only if they were bigger, things he would do to my body, etc. I would say stop politely, but he would continue. When I started yelling and saying stop more assertively, he would often make me do humiliating tasks like cleaning the greasy floors with my hands and knees, or cleaning the dining room when it was closed due to the virus. And when I told Frank this, he shrugged it off and said that there was no reason for him to be fired. I remember being absolutely shocked, retorting, "I'm just glad that I'm leaving this hellhole," and I left it at that. A month into my new job as a hostess, everything was going well. It's a restaurant, but everyone just comes there to drink, so it's more of a bar. On one of my 2 a.m. shifts, Frank stops by on his bike. I tried to be friendly, but I was getting frustrated when he kept cutting me off from talking to other people. I then walked away to bus tables because no one else would do it, and he couldn't follow me into the restaurant. There was only outdoor seating, of course. After bussing all the tables, I come up to the counter to see my coworkers giggling. "What's happening?" I asked. The other hostess smiled. "That's so cute how your boyfriend takes photos of you while you're working. That's so cute how obsessive he is over you. He wouldn't stop talking about you to us." Boyfriend. I was and still happily remained single after all that bullcrap of a relationship. The only person that they could be referring to was Frank. And then it dawned on me. How the hell did he know where I was working and my shift schedule? I didn't tell anyone besides my parents and my brother. A week goes by and Frank comes back. I may have gotten a little overdramatic, but I didn't know what else to do. I told the other host at the counter to tell him I'm not working today, and I dashed inside. I told my manager that this man, Frank, keeps taking photos of me as I'm working, and it's making me uncomfortable. My manager told me to stay in the back room while he went and handled the situation. Our restaurant is very popular in the area, so it's very crowded in the front. Frank with his bike would block customers, and that's what my manager was telling him. My idiotic ass was popping my head up a little under that back room window where I could see what was going on in front. I freak out a little when I see Frank get aggressive with my manager. He begins thrashing when my manager tries to lead him out of the front. Suddenly, Frank throws his bike and tries heading into the building. A few male waiters see what's happening and were informed by my manager. I remember one waiter standing in the background with me watching the door, as another was practically fighting with Frank. I could only hear yelling outside the door, and then it went quiet. I spent the rest of the shift like that, cleaning silverware with that male server. From then on, people would walk me to my car even if it was in broad daylight. From August to November, he would be on his bike passing by the restaurant from a distance. He would just be watching and taking photos for 10 to 20 minutes before leaving. Now, the reason I thought of putting this here was it's been a little more intense besides just the looking from a distance. Due to the virus, I'm not needed anymore because now my restaurant is takeout only. I've been working seasonal jobs while working at the restaurant, but now I'm not working, waiting to get my schedule. Because I was bored this day, I drove to my local mall just to do some Christmas shopping. While driving, I look in the rearview mirror to see a recognizable face. It was Frank. I practically choke on spit seeing his face in my mirror. I try not to get the best of myself and knock it off as a coincidence. It wasn't. He followed me throughout the mall and then later followed me as I was driving home. No one knows where I live besides that old friend, and I would like to keep it at that. So I drove for an hour, getting lost and taking every random turn I could until I lost him. I now believe this is how he would track me down. My car isn't common, but it doesn't stand out too much. I've rarely left my house since. It's January 2021, and ever since the start of this new year, I've been getting phone calls going like, "Hello?" Somebody breathing into the phone like a creep. "Hello?" The call ends. Along with that, I've gotten many random messages about asking about gifts and delivering me a gift. I'm not one who usually uses social media, but these messages were all over mine. All of them were from newly made accounts across Snapchat and Instagram. On one occasion, an account started sending me photos that I never sent to anyone. These photos were photos of my cat and that I had saved in my Snapchat account. Just photo after photo of things I've never sent, and ending with, "I have a gift for you." I deleted both apps along with deleting almost everything off my phone. A week ago, I downloaded Snapchat again due to some dumb assignments my teacher wanted us to do with that crap social media app. One of my old coworkers sent me a message and I opened it. "Frank wants to give you your Christmas gift. You want to stop by?" Maybe I'm just overreacting, or maybe those accounts were Frank. I just want to say that my personality has changed because of all of this. I'm very protective now. I rarely talk to anyone, not as friendly as I was then. It's only been a little over a year, yet I feel like I've aged more than 10. I just want to say, Frank, I don't want your Christmas gift. When I was 8 or 9 years old, my stepmom's family had invited us to a party. This place was a community hall, and in front of the building was a big car park. And to the right of the building was a big playing field with a play park. Being 9 years old, I didn't want to sit inside, so I bought my Heelys. You know, the ones with wheels on the bottom of the shoes, so I could scoot around the car park. I was in the car park and this car was parked up near where I was playing. My dad came out to shout at me to come in, to sing happy birthday, and then I went straight back outside. Amy, not my real name, come in to sing happy birthday. I loved being outside. It was my favorite place, plus I wanted a Heely. Anyway, I'm playing outside when all of a sudden, I start hearing, "Amy, Amy, Amy, come here. Amy, come here," in an almost whisper. The guy from the car that was parked up earlier was stood in front of his car on an embankment, and it was him calling my name. I ran inside to tell my dad. I was petrified. I hid behind my auntie's chair and stayed there. My dad went marching out. My partner now is 6'5", and he will not get on the wrong side of my dad, just to give you a little bit of reference. All I know after that is this guy tried to threaten to beat up my dad, and my dad was having none of it. The guy who had been calling my name said that he was actually calling his dog. I don't know many people with a dog named Amy, and I had also not seen a dog with him. I am unsure whether this guy was telling the truth or not, but still, little 9-year-old me was petrified. I didn't go back outside after that. As I said, I'm unsure of his intentions, but I do not want to be that freaked out again. I've read so many stories here, so I decided to submit my own. About 6 years ago, I was with my friend Tom at my parents' cabin. We decided to head off to a casino located on an Ojibwe reserve about 40 minutes away. The entire stretch of highway between is heavily forested and has no lights, meaning it can get incredibly dark. We got there and played some poker, tried a few table games, and grabbed some dinner with our winnings. A pretty successful night overall for the both of us. We ended up leaving the casino at around 1 a.m. A little later than I would have liked, given the lack of any streetlights. We drive for about 20 minutes on the highway without passing any other vehicles, when I notice 2 green orbs just off the highway before a hill. Realizing it was a deer, I slammed on the brakes and waited. Several deer crossed and we resumed driving. The car was going slowly up the hill because it was a starting stop. As soon as we make it over the crest of the hill, Tom screamed, "Holy crap!" Right in front of us was a young woman walking in the middle of our lane towards us, no more than maybe 30 feet away. I slam on the brakes again and come within 10 feet of her. Thankfully, slowing down earlier and climbing the hill meant that we weren't going fast. but what was going through my mind wasn't the fact that I nearly ran over someone. It was that this young woman with pitch black hair was wearing a white nightgown, with no shoes, and was still walking towards us with a blank expressionless face. Not going to lie, that image frightened me, because it looked like something straight out of a horror movie. Tom and I waited to see if she was going to pull up to our window and maybe ask for help or something. She made it to the front of my car and went around the driver's side. She didn't stop, but she raised her hand and dragged it across the side of my car, while continuing her walk. At this point, Tom and I were both freaked out. I asked Tom what to do. He said that we should just get out of here. For whatever reason, I just didn't feel right about leaving, and not asking if she was alright. I looked in the rearview mirror and saw that she was still walking. Having almost hit her and knowing that something just wasn't right, I decided to do something. I told Tom that I was going to ask if she was alright. Tom pleaded that we just go and get out of here. I put on some bravado and told him not to worry and that I would be right back. I put on my blinkers and I stepped out of my car. I left my door open to provide some light and I walked around to the trunk of my car. My interior lights didn't do much blinking, but it allowed me to see an outline of her slightly down the hill. Only able to see her every other second, I yelled, "Are you alright?" She finally stopped walking, but still faced the other way. There was no response. I heard Tom's door open as he was getting out to join me. Suddenly, she started screaming. Tom and I ran back into my car and I just floored it. I got a lot of crap from Tom for the remainder of the ride back to my cabin. I haven't heard or seen anything like that on the highway since then, and I'm pretty thankful for it. That was the creepiest moment of my life. This took place back in 2016. I, at the time, was a 16-year-old girl at a summer camp. This summer camp took place at a college about 45 minutes away from me. I was there for filmmaking and knew everyone in the program. Yes, there were other programs such as dance, drama, and visual arts, but there was still a limited amount of people. The film camp lasted longer than all of the other ones, so by the last week, there were about 50 of us on campus, so you remember faces. There was a certain spot on campus where a lot of people would go to watch the sunset. Two of my friends and I decided to sit out there. There were many people to begin with, so we felt comfortable. I should have mentioned this earlier, but the campus is located in the sketchier part of town, and there are gates to enter from the outside. As it got darker and darker, more and more people went back to their dorms. The three of us stayed out even in the dark. There were street lamps, and I had my camera, and one friend had her laptop, so it wasn't pitch black. It was about 9:30 p.m. and a man walked in front of us. We waved and smiled as he walked by. The only thing is, I had never seen him before. Even a week ago, before all the other sessions left, I had never seen him before, and at most, there had been about 250 people on campus. I tell my friends that it kind of creeped me out and that I've never seen him. But the one with the laptop said it was nothing to worry about, seeing that there was campus security doing a checkup on the building near us. About 10 minutes go by and he walks in front of us again. After he leaves, the friend with the laptop in a worried voice says, "We need to go." We grab all of our belongings and are walking fast back to the dorms, and get her to explain to me what had her so worried. She said that when he walked by again, he looked over his shoulder and did a head nod into the distance, and when she looked over, she saw another man in the darkness. We laughed it off as we got close to the dorms, but all I could think to myself was, why didn't we leave when I said we should? Nobody ever listens to me, even though I have great intuition. Anyway, creepy men who seemingly were planning on mugging us. Thankfully, we didn't meet.